Alright guys, Hutchcomic again today. Hope you're doing well and enjoying your day so far. Rostermania finally kicking back up into gear last night with major developments on the LA Thieves Superteam, but also what does this mean for Cloud9, an organisation seemingly coming into the league, taking over a top 4 team, selling it their most prized asset, not exactly to their own benefit and potentially to the detriment of the competitiveness at the top of the league. Why would they do this? What next for these organisations? So many other pieces of drama on the day as well. Very much intrigued to your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. I would greatly appreciate it. First of all, some major developments in the CDL side, starting with MettalZ Ross. This is a big one and a very frustrating one for the Call of Duty scene. Again, we've seen this over the last several years. The CDL, despite the fact that Activision Blizzard and Microsoft have plenty of money lying around, they don't seem to want to commit it in the way that we might like for the future of the competitive scene. So many very talented individuals have been let go from the teams over there over the last couple of years. And now MettalZ, who I believe was one of the only casters, maybe him and Chance, I don't know, were on like a full-time contract to be a caster for the Call of Duty League. Maybe that's what Maven had back in the day, but obviously we had the drama a couple of years ago there, and Maven is now like a contractor basically to the league. That is likely what will happen here with MettalZ, but as MettalZ says, free agent. Last week I was let go from Activision during the latest wave of layoffs alongside some brilliant friends in the team. He says therefore that he's very excited for the season, but his exclusivity with Call of Duty has therefore ended, so he can do other things as well if he would so choose, which may in the long run work out to be better for MettalZ because, you know, what a guy, an incredible talent. To me, him and Chance have been the premier casters in Call of Duty now for the last couple of years, and to be fair, they are the casters that cast the finals. So with any luck, MettalZ will still be around, and maybe, as I say, it could work out better for him that he can do other opportunities as well, and hopefully he gets to stay as a Call of Duty caster and they can come to an appropriate arrangement there, but he's not going to be there as like a full-time employee as he has been previously, I guess. But it's just very frustrating that a caster of his level and talent and abilities, and a caster genuinely not just in my opinion the best in Call of Duty, but arguably across so many different esports, MettalZ is right up there. MettalZ and Chance both, to be fair, and I love the other casters we have in COD as well. Like, they're all phenomenal. I think genuinely we are blessed to have the talented commentators that we do, and MettalZ is, you know, arguably the cream of the crop there. And I first met MettalZ, I think it was probably Anaheim 2019. I imagine he had no idea who I was, but he was commentating that event when he was certainly not the premier caster at the time, and I think it struck me that he spent quite a lot of time backstage in the warm-up areas with the pro players, speaking to this guy, speaking to this coach, trying to glean a little bit of insights, just some slight bit of information that he might potentially be able to drop into a broadcast commentary just to make things that little bit better, right? And, you know, I just really struck me that, like, wow, this guy isn't just here to be a talented commentator and do his job and clock off. Like, he's trying to do the best job possible, and he also has one of the best leather jackets possible. I get jealous every time I see it. So, you know, let's move on from this. But, yeah, as Maven says, welcome back to the contractor life. Hopefully this ends up being a blessing, gives you some more opportunities, and look, hopefully he stays around in the Call of Duty League, because that would be a real loss if he does not. But other big losses, potentially from various teams, include ReeaL, who has been officially let go from Cloud9. What are they cooking at Cloud9? Well, we'll get to that in a second, but his contract has expired. He is now able to go elsewhere as a head coach or whatever of some other team is looking for a head coach, coaching, GM roles. I'm sure that opportunities are going to roll up. There were rumours that maybe Falcons are interested, but you know, we'll see where he goes, but it doesn't seem likely that he's going to return to Cloud9. Will he follow HyDra? That's an interesting question for sure. Now, Amelia Rose, who was dating ReeaL for many a year, said a couple of interesting things on Twitter before deleting a couple of them, but she did say this: just don't understand, like, go buy LAG or Carolina if you want to run a team on a budget and don't want to commit to taking over contract of a top 4 team. It's mind-blowing. COD esports ain't real sometimes. So this is the point about Cloud9, right? They are doing, it seems, the Cloud9 thing that they do in multiple esports, where they come in and they run a team, not exactly on a budget precisely, but they run a team with what they would consider to be, you know, financial responsibility. If they have a big name player they can sell, they will. And they've done it before in other esports. And they potentially are doing it again here, especially given there's rumours we're going to see in a second that Cloud9 potentially want to move the players to LA and therefore maybe completely destroy the New York Subliners brand and move entirely. Then maybe the argument is, why not buy Gorillas? Why buy a team in the Subliners that are taking it seriously and then take it less seriously? That's the point that is being made here. Amelia then kind of goes on to quote tweet and say, it's a real shame that his kind of, additions to the teams are not appreciated as much as they should be, and maybe that's how Cloud9 see it as well, or they're just saving cash, which seems to be part of what might be going on here. And even Cloud9 Laura, who of course works in socials over there, is, tweeting the following out, right? Subliners, she's looking at the team and kind of missing these times because it does not seem like that's going to last for too much longer. Not just because the branding is going to be dead, but potentially because the team is not going to be winning championships anytime soon, which is a real shame. But, the fact that Cloud9 are coming in does potentially mean we can get this absolute super team over at the Los Angeles Thieves getting formed, which arguably does make the league even more top heavy, but it is nonetheless absolutely fascinating, as we'll see in a second. Another coach getting let go, but this was, we knew ReeaL was getting let go. This was a surprise to me. Tupac, who, let's not forget, search and destroy coach for Chicago Huntsmen back in the day. He was then let go there. He went to FaZe, and then they've become, over the last few years, a phenomenal search and destroy team. And he says that he's been let go by FaZe due to budget cuts. So, yeah, even FaZe, Atlanta Esports Ventures, they're in a similar position where, despite the good success that FaZe again had this year, they are not in position to keep on supporting a very wide coaching staff with RJ, with Crowder, with Tupac as the search and destroy coach. He's going to be gone. So, I think he has seemed to me to be a very valuable asset to that FaZe team and even the Huntsman team over the last couple of years. Drazah says it, any team would be lucky to have you, but it's got to be a loss to FaZe on some level not to have their search and destroy masterminds working behind the scenes, but equally just more talented individuals being let go and looking for opportunities. So wishing everyone here involved the best. But let's talk about the consequences of this for what it means for this potential LA Thieves super team, because Ronnie, as Woj retired yesterday, goes on a generational run last night and drops a load of absolute bombs, starting with the following: HyDra to Thieves is now possible. So we talked about this rumour over the last few days. The general rumour has been that Scrap and Envoy have been gearing up to team together again. They seem to be getting along rather well, and it's, it would be my expectation that wherever one of them ends up, the other one will likely go as well. They seem to want to be a bit of a package deal over there. So the latest rumour was that, well, maybe Cloud9, if they want to drop the bag and get him, that was the initial rumour, that Cloud9, after getting rid of Sib, and where does it leave Sib in all this drama today? That's a big question as well. They were going to do everything they could to get the boys Scrappy and Envoy potentially into Cloud9. Turns out maybe they ain't got the budget for that. And that's why Thieves are now potentially, and I even mentioned this weeks ago, that Thieves are a team that were potentially primed to pick up the pieces of this Rostermania. And maybe they're not even picking up the pieces. They are dominating this Rostermania period. One rebuild year has maybe put Thieves in a position financially, maybe because Nadeshot started streaming again, I don't know, where they can actually afford to try and do this type of stuff. But that deal was now possible. And then rumours emerged that potentially Sender could follow HyDra to Thieves. Now, interesting that maybe ReeaL wouldn't, but maybe there's questions on that. I don't know. But what a Cloud9 cooking, right? Like, even just on the Cloud9 perspective here for a second, they've come in, they've taken over the Subliners, they've taken them to the World Cup, and okay, they didn't get the result they wanted at the World Cup. They lost to OpTic, but, still one of the best teams in the entire world. And HyDra, arguably the best player in the entire world, a player capable of absolutely carrying a roster single-handedly to championship success. As Methods here says, Cloud9 buys a spot and sells a player that can one-man army a team to finals. Like, what are we doing right now? And then they're letting go of one of their coaches, and then the other coach is going to go with HyDra to Thieves. Like, if you're Kismet and Skyz, are you not sitting here thinking, lads, are we serious right now? Like, we just won champs in 23, we made the champs grand finals again in 24, and here we are gutting our entire team for what purpose precisely? To be a team on the brink of being any good? Like, be a team on the brink of the top 4? Try and say to Sib, hey, please come back, like, we didn't want to get rid of you after all, like, come back with Skyz and Kiz and make a team happen. It's like, what are we doing, right? Like, it's just very confusing to me. It's exciting because it means that this Thieves possibility is actually rather likely, but it's just, like, what a Cloud9 playing at. And also, as Amelia Rose arguably rightly said, you know, what are we doing here from taking over a team that was serious and potentially turning into a team that hasn't been so serious? So then he follows up with Scrap and Envoy to Thieves with Ghosty looking increasingly likely, and then Jake Hale himself drops the bomb. So LA Thieves are signing Scrap, HyDra and Envoy for the Black Ops 6 season to join Ghosty, targeting Cinder as their new coach after J-Cap's departure. Everything is nearly finalised. Things could change, the team is looking likely, and this is, of course, a bombshell. We saw this rumoured the other day, but this is a major development here in Rostermania, that this is apparently a nearly finalised deal to form one of the craziest teams that we have ever seen form in Rostermania, right? So we'll talk about Nadeshot's reaction later on today and whether you believe his perspective on this whole situation or not. But, I mean, this is a team and a half, and I mean, I don't know where this team fits in terms of the top four. You got FaZe, I mean, top three, let's call it now, because, you know, we've basically seen Toronto and Cloud9 potentially merge on Thieves to form this roster, in addition to Ghosty coming along for the ride as well, which is, you know, potentially absolutely spectacular. I mean, Scrappy and HyDra are very arguably 1A, 1B best players in the entire game. Simp can compete, Shotzzy can compete on some days, but Scrap and HyDra are arguably the two best players in the world on one team. You then have Ghosty, who's been phenomenal, and you have Envoy, who arguably is one of the best possible fits alongside a HyDra that you can find from an SMG perspective, and you are forming a team that on paper is absolutely unbelievable. And I'm not gonna lie, you look at that roster of four, is it better than FaZe's team? Is it better than OpTic's team? I mean, you can make the argument, is what I'm saying. I'm not going to say that this team, if it was formed, is the #1 team in the world on paper, but you can make the argument that it is. So, you know, that's the exciting thing for me about this whole saga. But the Cloud9 stuff is just incredible if this actually does come true, right? Because the idea that they've come along, they've bought out New York, and now they've basically just sold out HyDra potentially. But Cloud9 have done this before. They've done this in other esports. They did it in Valorant, where they signed Ye. They realized they had no money to pay for Ye, and they said, oh, well, if you guys ever followed the Valorant channel that I also have, when that was going on a couple of years ago, then Cloud9 were like, oh, no, we had role issues with the team, and we just had to let him go. And even though all the rumors were saying that it was money, and it basically was money, as far as we understand. But, yeah, Ye was then let go because they needed to save the cash. They've done it in other esports as well, selling their most valuable players. But the developments here are confusing from their decision making, if that's true, especially because of this. Cloud9 are looking to play out of LA this year. Now, does that mean they are going to transition away from New York and become like Cloud9 Los Angeles and have like another Los Angeles team, which is probably unlikely? Or are they just going to have the players play from Los Angeles but still represent New York for some reason? But also, LA is not exactly cheap, is it? This is what confuses me, right? Potentially monetarily or financially, they are having conversations about what makes the most sense, potentially looking to sell HyDra as a consequence. Maybe they feel Cloud9 in the same way that Toronto feel, that HyDra and Scrappy are not going to stick around for an extra season. So it's either sell them now for a buyout or they walk away for free at the end of next year, because they probably want to team up anyway, let's be real. And, you know, I talked about it a while ago, it just makes way too much sense. So I kind of get it from that perspective, but also if Cloud9 are struggling for cash, or like they want to run the team more responsibly, then moving to LA doesn't seem to really add up, does it? But the final roster thing to mention then is what's happening over at Toronto, because Scrap and Envoy, if they are to leave, then CleanX and Insight would potentially stay. That is the latest rumor, that that duo is going to stick around over there. But then what do you do instead? The latest rumor is that it's potentially going to be Beans, who is the most likely candidate to replace Scrappy over there on Ultra, which actually, of all the options, I really like this option. Right, Beans is a fast-paced, aggressive AR. Like, is he quite a Scrappy? No, but look, he's a player who plays on a similar way to Scrappy, and on his day can be very effective. He's also loud. He's got a good personality. Like, he's an entertaining character, and I think it's going to be nice to see him somewhere that is in Boston, to be perfectly honest. So, you know, this is a really exciting one to me. I feel like if Ultra are trying to find a replacement for Scrappy, Beans is absolutely up there. Of course, they need a fourth as well. They could look at, you know, even a Hixie. They could look at some other options from the SMG side. That is a conversation being had. But also, Sib, where does it leave Sib? Especially because we know that Cloud9, even though he's still technically there, obviously, according to his Twitter stuff, they got rid of him. He's a restricted free agent. They don't want to play with him anymore. But might they now decide to bring him back, or at least say, please come back? Because otherwise, what do you do if you're Cloud9 trying to rebuild? Surely you've got to try and keep some of your talent around, especially if the potential role for Sib on Toronto is fixed, and obviously there's no option on Thieves. Then maybe even for Sib coming back to Cloud9 would be his best possibility. But, you know, so much drama over the last evening. Very much interested your thoughts on all of this stuff in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, take care, and I'll see you next time.